into it.
Yes, indeed. Well, here we are on Frost. We have in the bottom left. We have the red Protoss this time. He's down 1-0. He wants to advance through the round of 8 at Epicon. He is Fnatic's Ignite. And in the top right, we have from Team Esports Club Visualize, the Dutchman in this matchup. He is Sjaak.
So 1-0 up at the moment for Sjaak, with a very nice kind of late game composition there in game number 1. Ignite, he was certainly the aggressor though in that first game, initially with the DTs, and then in with the Zealot Archon mid-game. Do you think he's going to go for that same sort of style again, Woman, or do you reckon we're going to see a more late game orientated build just because it is Frost?
Yeah, that's a good question. Really, it comes down to the preference of the preference of these players on these types of map. Like I mentioned, Sjaak, he really likes to go Stargate, as far as I always seen him do so. Whoop, not sure what happened there. So anyway, we do have in the bottom left Ignite, and considering the fact that they are cross spawns, means that there is a lot of space for them to work with Stargate. You know, Sjaak, I consider him a bit of an expert in the matchup, you know, being able to beat a lot of really good players with Stargate. I do expect that's what we're going to be seeing out of him.
Well, another Stargate would be quite cool. Of course, on Frost there's some fun things that can go on with it. There's a decent amount of dead space that can be utilised, but do you reckon it'll be, if there is a Stargate, do you reckon it'll be Oracle or Phoenix style play?
Well, usually Oracle is quite strong, because if your opponent cannot scout it, which is of course a slight bit difficult on the large maps like these, you can deny scouting, well, a lot more easier because it takes so long for the scout to actually reach your base. So yes, opening Oracle is strong, but it's also a bit of a gambit, because if your opponent opens Phoenix, which is of course a very interesting dynamic, then you're almost automatically behind, because usually the Phoenix can take care of your Oracle before it even does a significant amount of damage.
I like to think of the Phoenix as the more safe choice generally as well, because while they're not going to do a lot of damage, at least in a short term, long term, they're always going to do something, even if that's a head-on engagement. Whereas the Oracle, it kind of has to get, not lucky, but it has to make sure that it's not countered in the build order, because if it is, it does nothing. And that's always a gamble you've got to take, but as is often the case in StarCraft, if you take a risk and it pays off, you get yourself a win.
Yeah, taking a risk is in a lot of cases worth it. I do feel that it has to be a calculated risk, such as a DT, but also, you know, opening Dark Templar is a bit of a risk, because if it gets scouted you can fall behind, but you don't always have to overcommit to Dark Templar. So it kind of comes down to how you execute it, and so far for Sjaak, or actually for both players, we see once again the Twilight Council, Sjaak's actually being slightly more ahead. Both players collecting an equal amount of gas as well, so which tech they're actually going to go with is slightly ambiguous, but Sjaak is a proxy balance out on the map already.
Sjaak actually cancelled that Twilight Council just as we flicked over. It was scouted, I do believe, from Ignite, if I double check that. Yeah, he saw it. Now being cancelled. This is a very big switch up. Meanwhile, Ignite, he goes for those Dark Templar yet again, not diverging from the playstyle he showed in the first map.
Yep. Sjaak actually cancelling his Twilight Council and going for a fast expansion. I really do wonder what his thought process behind this is, because if you look at what he scouted, he's playing completely in the dark. Like, he has no idea what his opponent is doing, and his opponent is basically doing the worst thing, which is opening Stargate. But we have for Sjaak a robo facility.
So, with the robo coming down, we're going to be getting some quick observers out. I don't know if the Dark Shrine has been seen. No, it hasn't. There's been no scout at all yet from Sjaak. A little bit of poking and prodding from Ignite with this Stalker. Going to be trying to pick off that Mothership core. With the Stalker coming back for Sjaak, shouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, actually, a bit of a lacking micro here by Sjaak, not targeting down the Mothership core when he can. I wonder if Sjaak, is he aware of this? Yeah, he should be aware that there is a proxy panel being constructed in front of his base. His Nexus will finish in time though, and yeah, the Robo has finished now. There's actually very nasty timing here for Ignite to do some damage. The Dark Templar is being warped in right now, but Sjaak is adequately positioned his units at the top of the ramp in order to force field and defend.
He's assuming the Dark Templar is coming, or at least prepared for it. Force
Nice.
field, ooh, too needed there just to trap it, but it does actually trap it inside so it can get taken down. So
Yeah.
It does actually pay off in the end. 2 force fields for a Dark Templar is always going to be a nice trade for you.
Yeah, so the gamble here by Sjaak absolutely paid off. Like, canceling the Twilight and then go for expand into a Robo is a very safe way to open. As we just could see, because there were 3 sentries and a lot of force fields available for him, as well as both an overcharge. But actually Ignite has expansion up at a very similar timing. The worker count is also equal. So in terms of actual economic situation, Ignite isn't very that much behind. However, I really do feel that the Robotech will pay off a lot more for Sjaak in the long run.
Still waiting, still checking to see if we're going to be getting anything else much coming down from these two in terms of pressure in the mid game. But with the addition of the Forge on both sides, and with those natural bases down at a similar time as well, probably not going to see much in the way of big plays over the next couple of minutes. But it's what they build into for that mid game that's going to be very interesting.
Actually, Zealot got warped in by Sjaak at the front and picked off two probes, which is a nice trade. Except, of course, you got a lot of info as well, so that's even a bit of a win at the end of the day. The Hallucinated Phoenix from Sjaak pretty much saw everything, and the fact that he saw a Forge is something that will make him very happy, because it means that Ignite, like Sjaak himself, is playing for the long run at this point. Sjaak actually had his Mothership Core attacking his Nexus for a brief while there. I'm not sure why he keeps doing that, but it seems to be a bit of an odd trend in his gameplay.
Just checking around to see if there's anything else coming down that gives a big kind of indicator of what these guys have got planned. But with the 1-1 upgrades coming through and just a lot of Immortals, it's probably going to end up to be a similar play on who goes Colossus, and it's going to be Sjaak, whereas a Stargate comes down from Ignite.
Very interesting to go for a Stargate at this point in the game. Of course, it's a bit too late to have Void Rays, I feel, as a a critical component to the army. It's almost as if he did scout the fact that his opponent should be going for, I believe there was a Hallucinated Phoenix that saw the Robo Bay as well, so he should be aware of the fact that there is a Colossus tech on the way. So I really do anticipate this to be Tempest.
And Tempest is a really nice response in the real late game, but you need 6 plus Tempest down before they actually become a great counter to Colossus, where you can start one-shotting the Colossus down. So that obviously takes rather a long time to produce. No sign of Tempest yet though. Fleet Beacon is on its way, but instead just a couple of Phoenix, or there was a Phoenix being produced, gets cancelled. Interesting choice.
Sjaak did not spot the Fleet Beacon being on their way.
He should know.
He should know, indeed. I like the addition of the Twilight Council, because, as you mentioned, you need a lot of Tempests in order to make them worth it, and they do not build that fast. So if he gets a lot of Blink Stalkers out, he can actually blink under the Tempests, close the gap rather quickly. Do note that the supply is still heavily in Sjaak's advantage. Their income is quite similar, as well as their tech. Of course, they are going for completely different tech routes, but it's not that big of a difference. But hold up, here comes a drop from Sjaak, from Ignite.
Double Immortal, dealing quite a bit of damage, will be able to take down that Photon Cannon, but has to back away due to the Photon Overcharge and the army of Sjaak coming back. Picking off 1 cannon, obviously it was damage for nothing, but nothing that's going to hurt Sjaak really long term. That 150 minerals down the pan.
Yeah, exactly. That cannon pretty much served its purpose. You put a cannon there in order to be safe against surprise attacks, surprise drop. And
hang on, the Fleet Beacon was cancelled
yeah.
for a second Stargate to get made, and now a Robotics Bay is coming down?
I'm seeing a lot of stuff in production, and I really cannot tell what's going on at this point. He's getting a third as well as the Templar Archives. Whereas Sjaak is going for a much more mid-game oriented build this time, with a quick +2, as well as charge and a lot of gateways. And he's getting his units out on the map, as well as a lot of proxy pylons. I think Sjaak has a very good timing here to kill his opponent.
Well, this is somewhat reminiscent to game number 1, but roles reversed.
Yes.
Sjaak is the one with the strong mid-game, but the big difference is Ignite doesn't have a single Colossus out yet. He teched into that Colossus exceptionally late, because of these 2 Stargates, and the 2 Stargates haven't been utilized for anything.
No.
At all.
Exactly, they're just sitting in his base being idle. Meanwhile, Sjaak is, rapidly building up his forces. The drop from Ignite actually coming in takes care of a lot of units here, and still has to get out because Sjaak's Stalker did not want to die. And yeah, the army of Sjaak is now literally crossing the map, marching across. Archons joining the fray as well. And I do not think this third will survive for a very long time. The question is even, will Sjaak even go for this third or just try to kill off the natural as soon as he can?
If I was in Shaq's position, I'd say gun straight for the natural base, because
Yeah.
while the third would be annoying, he's kind of got to win here and now. And he's got the right composition to do it.
Yeah, and the army supply really tells the difference. What's actually really cool here is the fact that Ignite doesn't have any Archons, so he cannot break force fields. And Sjaak, he can just, yeah, he's lured his opponent's army towards the third, so he can now just kill in, move it, kill it, and force field everything. And here we go. The Archons not here for nice time warp here on all the Immortals who are trying to back out, but the Chartals close the distance. A lot of them die, but the nice time warp here by Ignite saves most of it, but he's in shambles.
He's in a big spot of trouble. He's under half the army supply of his opponent. Shaq's still warping in. Ignite really doesn't have much to defend this off with.
Oh,
Two Zealots.
The Immortals.
Yeah, he's literally got one Immortal right now and two Archons. This is going to be a tough hold. Yes. Especially when there's no Float and Overcharge either.
There are clauses on the map. I'm not sure if they actually, Thermal Lens hasn't completed, so they do not have much of a range advantage. Nice time warp on them as well. The Immortals now closing the distance, firing at all these Archons, just melting. A nice warp in here by Ignite. Gets them on top of some of the Immortals, but just too much firepower here from Sjaak. And Ignite, a quick 0-2 against him, and very solid player by Sjaak, I have to admit.